Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode. I'm your host, Brendan Cobb, and today I got Matthias Wilson on the show. He is the co founder and CEO of Capital Velocity Investments. He's got over 10 years' experience as a real estate investor and operator. He's got over a $13 million portfolio. He's raised over $7.5 million from investors, purchased over 140 multifamily units, and he's also involved in another 408 units with his partners. This is fun, man. He's had 9 deployments, 14 years in the military, doing real estate stuff. So excited to jump in with him today. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. I sound way cooler on paper, I guess, than I feel like I am, but I appreciate it.
I know, right? Well, so for those that don't know who you are, what's your story and how did you first get introduced to, multifamily and the real estate, all the stuff we're going to get into today?
Yeah, so I'm an Army brat. My dad was military. I was enlisted, did 22, 23 years in the Army. I knew two things from that. I knew one that I wanted to follow his footsteps and join the military and do some special operations stuff. I was excited to do that. And then two, I also knew that having a dad that's gone for an extended period of time, over and over again through childhood kind of sucks. So I knew one that I wanted to get in and get after it, but also two, I wanted to build a kind of an exit strategy so that my dad didn't have any options. He had to keep working. So I have five siblings, so there was a lot of mouths to feed. So he had to keep at it. I wanted to build myself as I went, kind of an exit strategy, so that I wasn't tied to the job, and that I could, once I started having kids, I wanted to be able to pull chocks and get out of there if I needed to. So,
Yeah.
uh, yeah, so that was kind of, so I'm in the middle, I'm flying airplanes, I'm doing all the Air Force stuff, which was cool. I loved it. But I was always obsessed with investing, and I knew that that was the way to replace. I didn't really want to go do another. Everybody in the Air Force and Air Force, especially military, likes to, they get out and they go do some contracting for the Department of Defense, well, Department of War now, but Department of Defense. They get out and they kind of stay in that big old system. And I knew when I got out, I was going to be done. I did not want to be tied to people telling me what to do and having all these crazy bureaucratic rules and things. So investing was going to be my way out. And my wife's a real estate agent. When she moved down to marry me and became a real estate agent, that chose that as her new career. And so we had some real estate mentors, and they convinced us to start investing in real estate. That was the first single family house we bought for $65,000 about 11 years ago. And that kind of just set it off in my mind like this. Wow, this is really powerful. So we bought two more houses the next year where we were refinancing, pulling a bunch of cash out and kind of continuing to grow that way. But like you said, I did 9 deployments, and that this was in the thick of it when we were doing this. So I've bought property from Afghanistan. I bought property from Africa, doing powers of attorney and mailing them home and all kinds of crazy stuff. With my wife as the boots on the ground, whenever we're buying stuff. But I kind of saw that, like, hey, I'm gonna need to figure out how to scale much quicker than just buying houses here. So that brought us to multifamily and syndications, and I just went all in, listening to podcasts, reading blogs, following people around that did it, and kind of just mimicked everything that I gleaned from them. Have tried to avoid some of their mistakes and made plenty of my own on the way. But basically, by the time of 2020, when I was on my last deployment, we bought an apartment complex while I was gone. And it was over Christmas 2019. So I guess I came home very early 2020. That was my last deployment, and I knew, it's like, hey, I had a kid. He was just almost 2 years old at that point, and it was a brutal Christmas that year watching him on FaceTime. And I was like, all right, that was it. This is the one, the last deployment. So I was done with all my service commitments and things. So told my bosses, Air Force bosses, like, hey, I'll hang out in the Air Force as long as you don't deploy me again and don't PCS me, don't change my station or move me somewhere else in the country. And they said okay. So I got to do my job for another 2 years, and then finally they couldn't fight off the big blue Air Force coming to move me around. So yeah, then I said, hey, thanks, appreciate it, but I'm done here. It was almost exactly 14 years when I separated. I didn't retire, I just separated, and by that time we'd built a portfolio that had completely replaced my Air Force salary.
Dude, that's awesome. A lot of people don't have the discipline to do what you did. It's very difficult building a portfolio while you have a full-time job. Can you speak to that a little bit? A lot of people can't do that. How was that set up? Did y'all have the, a lot of discretionary income? Like what kind of foundation did y'all build? Because you had to have a bit of discretionary income kind of coming in to be able to pull that and buy the amount of real estate that you guys did. Like a lot of full-time real estate entrepreneurs have the time to really go after, the Burr method, where it's like, okay, buy it at a
Sure.
significant discount, spend all this money on marketing, and refinance out all my money, and kind of wash, rinse, repeat. It's harder to compete with those full-time people as a W-2. And because of that, in my experience, what I've seen is W-2 people, they have to fork over the money for the down payment to get it. And so what kind of foundation did you and your wife build to be able to pull that off?
So Uh, and this is not a bragging thing. This is more of just everybody thought we were absolutely nuts for a long time because, and God bless them, right? None of this would have been possible without my wife being fully on board. So basically, we just decided way back when before we bought that first house that one, everything we made on that house was going to stay on the investment side. We were going to keep reinvesting and keep building and growing. We were never going to touch any of the cool profits that were coming out of this, which started happening really quick. But we knew that we were always going to keep rolling and growing the portfolio. That's investment side of the house. We're living off of the income today. And honestly, I was probably either a very junior captain or a first lieutenant at the time. So whatever that salary was, we kind of this is our budget. And so as the years went on and I got promoted, started making more, we only lived off of what we invested all that extra that I was making. We threw that into the real estate portfolio. And at the same time, we never took, again, we were nuts. People thought we were crazy, but we took every cent my wife made in her job and every cent that she made. That was on the investment side of the house. We never touched her income. We pulled it all. Everything went into buying more real estate and investing in more real estate, which it's tough to do. Most of that time we didn't have kids, so and I was deploying, so I'm getting a lot of
Yeah.
tax advantages to your combat zone tax exempt and stuff like that. So we were just very disciplined is the way to put it. We both drove way old cars that we had long since paid off for 10 years or more. We lived in a little starter home, 3 bedroom, 2 bath. We didn't buy any furniture. We basically um, we used my wife's furniture that she'd been carrying around, and I just there was no chance I was going to be able to buy furniture. It was going to get shot down one way or another, and so we just lived very very frugally. No, we didn't take we didn't take any vacations. We just went to visit family. All the things that you hear crazy people. We had a goal, and we knew that uh, it was a limited amount of time. It's like we do this for a set amount of time. We will eventually be able to live like kings, whenever we're on the backside. So we really just buckled down while we were young, and we had no kids. We didn't have to pay for daycare and things like that. We just buckled down through every cent we could, and it paid off. I mean, we were netting over $10,000 a month by the time I separated it just from straight money invested paying us. That's not even from the investing business per se, the LLC that we started. So it paid
Dude,
off.
props to you, man. That's so many people can't do that. It's interesting. I saw this YouTube video that really, I think, puts into perspective what's happening today, called the two income trap. And
Mm,
I'd seen a lot of these pictures going around of these families in like the 70s and 80s, and they had a nice house and yard, and mom stayed at home, and dad's income was enough for both. And it was like, what happened to that? It's like, why are both mom and dad working today, multiple jobs sometimes, just to make ends meet? It's like, where did things go wrong? And it was like when women started working a lot in the workforce, all of a sudden everybody had two incomes. Well, if you're competing with everyone with two incomes, you can afford a whole lot more. You buy the nicer car, you buy the nicer house because you can afford it more. You think, oh gosh, look at how much money we're making. Holy cow,
hmm
we can afford all these things. And then what you don't realize is all of the additional costs. You've got childcare that comes in where you're paying for that instead of, the mom or dad staying at home taking care of the kids. And then you've got what's called exhaustion spending. Instead of one spouse shopping and, going to the grocery store and buying
Yeah, totally.
more affordable food. You're eating out more because you're exhaustion
Hmm.
spending. And so there's all these other costs that rise. And all of a sudden, most American families find that both mom and dad are working, they're exhausted, and they're broke. You guys didn't do that. Y'all did what you're supposed to do, which is, you know, survived off one person's income. The other person worked. But y'all took literally, it sounds like 100% of it and just started dumping it into investments.
That's exactly what we did. And we're both naturally pretty frugal people. I mean, we buy nice stuff now, but it's always with cash, and it's always with we've funded all these crazy investments first. You know what I mean? Like it's all to us. It was always like, hey, we're growth mindset. We don't need this now. We can both we're perfectly happy with. I mean, this shirt that I'm wearing right now is a hand-me-down and it's probably 5 years old, if not more. It's a hand-me-down from my father-in-law who was just like, "Hey, I got a bunch of shirts that are nice," and I was like, "I don't care. I'll wear it. It's fine." And we've been doing that our whole marriage, and so yeah, people do think our peers were, and nothing against them, they're driving nicer cars and they're kind of
Yeah.
upgrading their houses and stuff as they go, which that's part of living life, and everybody got to you make that decision on what your priorities are. It's like, hey, do I want this today, or do I want to have a significant nest egg, by the time I'm not 40 yet, so I turned 40 in a couple of months, and we're infinitely better than our parents were, and so on. So
Man, it's so funny you mention that because I was doing something similar when I was younger in my mid 20s and first career job making some money. I was investing over half of what I was making and it was so funny because when I first went to Nashville to find a place to live, I looked at all those downtown lofts and I looked at the nice cars and because I had like my
mhm.
first, big boy job, right? And I'm like single
Sure,
and I didn't have any debt and I was like dude, we're gonna go crazy. And it was fun going out during those days because I like buy drinks, like when you're young and in your
sure.
20s going out all the time, like you could do that. But one thing I did, I was like, instead of getting the downtown loft, I actually went and rented this like Spanish bungalow type thing. I don't know why I liked it. Like I liked it. I thought it was cool. It was like a Spanish style, and the rent was $700 a month for the studio,
Nice.
and it was like 1/15th of what I was making. Where as the max you can qualify for with a home and an apartment is like 30% of your income. So, I could have qualified for something a whole lot more, but I was like, I'm going to just do the $700 a month and just dump it all into investments. And thank God that I did that. Like it was hindsight 2020, one of the smartest, moves I ever made. Even when I bought my first house, I renovated the downstairs and I rented the downstairs out. And, it basically paid my mortgage,
Yeah.
for 6 years, that's like 70, $80,000 and just again continue to invest that money and it just compounds like little bitty bits matter and like I drive a 2010 Toyota RAV4. I got buddies who are broke that have all the nice stuff and they got all the bougie things and
Inevitably.
they're literally living paycheck to paycheck and they make fun of me sometimes but I'm like dude I like assets I like
Yeah.
assets.
Yep. Anytime we spend money, it's like we have to convince ourselves. It's like, okay, well, I know this. Like we both drive Infinity SUVs now. Once the kids outgrew the back seat of my Honda Accord, and they wouldn't fit back there anymore with their car seats. I was like, all right, we finally got to get new cars, and this was in 2020 or 2021 or whatever. So we bought 2-year-old SUVs, both of us. Mine is the third row, and hers is smaller because we didn't need it. We paid cash for them, but like even that process after there was no chance we're ever going to take on a car payment again because it's crazy to us that people pay that, and I feel horrible for everybody who has a car payment. I'm like, I don't know how you do it, but the taking that chunk of money is like, oh, we had to like tear it out of our investment, like because that money normally just everything was thrown into the investments, and so it was like it was hard to not deploy that to put to work to us. It's like, oh man, now we're buying an asset that's gonna depreciate instead of appreciate, which is not what we're into. But obviously, you got to have a car to get around and keep the kids safe and all that, and do trips and stuff and carry all their crap with you. But
Well, so what advice would you give to somebody who is a W-2 person that eventually wants to quit their job and do real estate full time or build the amount of passive income that you guys did to replace your W-2 income? Like, what advice would you give them?
I I mean, it's going to sound awfully Dave Ramsey-ish, but it's like you gotta prioritize it. Like, do you want to live awesome later and be able to choose, like, work how you choose and when you choose, or do you want to be kind of paycheck to paycheck for forever? Because those are the options. Like, in it's a prioritizing. To me, I can't afford not to invest because I have things I want to do later. I can't afford not to. There's a risk to not investing and to not taking a significant chunk. That what is, they say, like, I don't know, 10%, 15%. It was like, that wouldn't have got me anywhere near where I am. Like, we invested, like you said, like, you did 50% of your income. I would wager we were at least 50% of our income, all of hers plus a lot of my, I don't know. I didn't do that math, but to me it's like you can't afford not to invest, and you just gotta look at the long, you gotta expand your aperture to look long term. That's what I tell people. It's like, look, where do you want to be in 10 years? Because what you do today is very much going to impact where you are in 10 years. And if you wait until 5 years from now to start doing something, that there's things that would have been possible in 10 years that are no longer possible. That's just a fact. You know what I mean? Like you said, little bit matters. So I always say is like, hey, just cut two or three things that you feel like you need and they're, you deserve. It's not a do I deserve this or should I be able to have this? It's yes, you can afford it now, but at the expense of what? What am I having? If I go out twice a week for dinner, okay, cool, cut that to once a week for dinner. And let's see, and invest that extra hundred, I don't know what, depending on where you live and what you're eating and all that stuff. But like, let's say that's $100 difference. Invest that $100. Do that. That's $400 a month, right? Just that right there. Invest that $400 a month and start. And then for me, once that snowball starts going, it's a lot easier to convince yourself. Once you see the fruits of a little bit of discipline and self-control and delayed gratification, once you see the fruits of that start, it's a lot easier to keep it going. And then you get even more aggressive because you go, the more aggressive you are, the less amount of time you got to do it, right? So I mean, me and my wife did that for, let's call it 6, 7 years, and we were multimillionaires with a 2 year old and a baby on the way, at no debts at all, and in our mid 30s. It's like it can be done, guys, and nobody gave us anything. My dad worked, is still working. He's hopefully going to retire soon, but I paid for out of state tuition and student loans and all that. So, um, I, I'm not special, I guess, is what I try to tell people, is that you can do it too. I'm not special. My advice is just that you have to reprioritize. It's like, do you want to live awesomely, in your late 40s and be able to, buy a yacht if you want one, or travel Europe and travel the world and do all these cool things? You can do that. You have to intentionally act now to be able to do that later.
Dude, I love it. So with capital velocity investments, what kind of stuff are you focused on and in what areas? Because I know you got a unique market. I think you're in Mississippi.
Yeah, we're in South, and I'm glad you said that. I guess we're in southern Mississippi, and most people go, "You're investing in Mississippi," and I like that because that means that I'm among the few that are investing in Mississippi. Because everybody else goes, "Huh?" Mississippi as a state is losing population. It is a negative growth state over the past 10 years.
Mm.
However, over that same 10 years, certain markets in Mississippi are growing at the same rate as your Tampas, your Charlottes, your Austin. Uh,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? It's obviously much smaller numbers, but the growth is there. So I target those markets in southern Mississippi, your Gulfport, Biloxi area, Hattiesburg. Those are my two primary markets down in southern Mississippi. And what I like is that they're a niche, so I don't have hedge funds from New York bidding stuff out of price
Yeah.
range, and California money coming in. I get to go. I'm basically, it's me and the good old boys that are that are trading properties down there most of the time. And what I can do is, I'm experienced. We've built portfolios. We've bought bigger properties with partners, so we've got a relatively a good reputation in the market that we're going to do what we say we're going to do. So my offers, the type of properties that are available in those markets are typically smaller. I mean, there are some 300 unit properties there, but and those are still institutional money and things like that. But I like to focus on the in the mid range, where the 40 to 70 unit properties where everybody with every institutional buyer is going to ignore them. The little guys, the just getting started guys, want them, but they don't necessarily have the track record or the reputation to be able to really close that kind of or the capital to be able to close that kind of deal confidently. But me and my team can, and so we have a buying advantage. That all the brokers call me when they find these deals and they say, "Hey, Matthias, you just bought one down the road a couple of months ago. Do you want this one?" And I'll say, "Yeah, maybe," or whatever. But I get like first pass at these deals. So it's a little niche that we're going to specialize in, and I can even buy at a discount from what another buy. Cause the broker is going to talk the seller into choosing my offer because they know I can close. I've got one down the street that I'm for real, basically. That everybody knows I'm legitimate, and so my offers are stronger, and I have a very strong team built in those markets, so I can operate them more efficiently, especially if as I add properties to my little portfolio there. That I can operate them more efficiently and make more money on them than the average person can. Which in the long run, I can package those up and sell them off to that institutional buyer who's looking for 200 units and won't get out of bed for less than, you know, 150, 200 units or whatever. I can package up for three, four, five properties that are operating, humming along, stabilized, and sell those off and capture more value on the back end too.
Do you find it difficult to do the property management on those type of properties? Because that's what I hear is, yeah, there's less people going after them because of the unit size. And I'm talking, maybe 50 units or less, somewhere around that
Hmm.
ballpark. Like it's too big for the mom and pop type people that are buying the duplexes and tris and quads. But it's too small for like the institutional stuff that want 100, 200 units. What I've found is like what I've heard is one of the benefits with like the 100 200 units is you can afford to have full-time property management on site to do a lot of stuff where as with like a 50 unit property you can't. So I mean, how do you navigate the property management challenges with those type of assets?
Yeah, so that's exactly what I think the value is that me and my team bring is that we're good at it. We've been doing it for years, and yes, it is. I mean, it is less efficient to operate a 40 unit than it is to operate a 120 unit because you have full time staff. But we have a really strong property management company in Southern Mississippi, and in my humble opinion, I think they're the best that I've ever experienced anywhere in the country, and they're really good at that. And basically, what they have they're big enough that they have on site or not on site, but they have on staff at the property management company. They have handyman and they have painters and experts and all this, that, and the other, which that's a benefit they provide to their owners is that hey, we have these people on staff and we'll charge you for the hours they work there, but it's way different than calling a painter, getting a bid, paying him thousands and thousands of dollars and so on. So, spread around the thousands of units they have in these markets, we get a little bit of that benefit. But on
Hmm.
on the other side, that's exactly why I'm trying to buy two or three more, four more properties of the same kind of size and general age and everything like that is because now I can eventually hire a handyman that if I have three or four 40 unit properties that's 150 units or whatever. I can effectively have my own guy on staff that he just today he's at this property doing these four things or and then so on and now I have those same efficiencies as the 150 unit property, but I acquired them all from the mom and pop at the mom and pop price. I can now operate them more efficiently too. That's exactly what we're so excited about in these markets because we're getting these deals across our desks like on a daily basis. People are throwing a 50 unit, a 60 unit that nobody else can operate as efficiently as we can or acquire probably at the same price. And it's just a niche, right? Like that's go hard at a niche and make a killing. That's kind of the what we're trying to do.
So it sounds like you've got your own property management in house and
Nope,
you're
it's
you're
third party,
sort
but they're great
oh, it is
partners.
third party.
Yeah. Hmm.
Really? Okay. So it is. So you don't have like your goal is to package all these up and sell them to institutions. Do you not think that there will be like some pushback that there's not, their own staff on hand at the complexes, or are they just looking at, hey, look, these all these properties have been managed third party for years and the cash flow, take it.
I see that being because the alternative for the this institutional buyer, whoever's going to take down to be a several millions of dollars deal that somebody would buy a whole portfolio like that. I think they're going to look at the trailing 12 on it and go, what I want to buy that. I don't want to buy and create new problems that don't exist. I'll
Mm.
buy that and pay whatever you're paying for the property manager, which is what they're going to be paying to their property manager anyway. If it's an outfit that has their own management, then they'll just take over and do it because it'll be big enough to support their own team that they build out there. But otherwise, if I were them, I'd go. I'm buying for stable cash flow. Let's not rock the boat. Let's buy it. And we can negotiate the price and, risk premiums here and there. But they're going to vet the property management company as they always do whenever they buy. And they're going to go, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
This is the strongest track record there that exists in Southern Mississippi. They've been doing it for decades and decades, and they got the best reputation around. And I don't know how you're going to beat that. I guess would be my argument to them in that negotiation process.
Matthias, if people want to learn more about you, learn more about maybe some of your, future upcoming investment opportunities, how can they get in touch?
Yeah, so capitalvelocityinvestments.com is our website, and we got links to everything there. I do a Substack weekly newsletter. We do a podcast. We're really big into education, so we got a lot of resources. We have a beginner's guide to real estate investing. We're working on a kind of a syndication investing 101 that's going to come out in the next few months that we're excited about. So something I would tell people is that, hey, if you want to learn more, everything's free. We're excited to get people involved in investing, and we think we've got a good product. If you do decide to invest, we think we have a strong track record that people choose us. So, capitalvelocityinvestments.com. I'm active on LinkedIn. Matthias Wilson is my name there. You can Google me, track me down, all that stuff. So, I appreciate the plug there.
No, man, I appreciate all of the wisdom too. It's very cool, very story. Thanks for coming on the show today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.